This is your friendly neighborhood atheist. What's up, everyone? Oh, dude, I forgot to take my glasses off. That's weird. I've never streamed with glasses on. Hey, everyone. Ethan here, your friendly neighborhood atheist, and I'll be having a sit-down discussion today. You know what we forgot to discuss before the show? Am I calling you Justin or am I calling you Khalil?
Whatever you want to call me. It's not specific.
You know, before we jump into it, how did you select the name Khalil?
So I looked through the names of possible Arabic names. Just went on the internet one day, and they said my Muslim brother said you don't have to change your name. Like we have Jake in the group with us, the Muslim metaphysician. He's still called Jake. He didn't pick an Arabic name. A lot of times when people do convert and they're from the West, they do pick an Arabic name. I thought it was appropriate to, just for the simple fact that I'm turning over a new leaf. I'm starting a new, journey in my life. And Khalil means friend. So Khalil Allah is friend of God, which is actually the same as Abraham. Abraham also equates to friend of God.
Cool.
I found that to be slightly ironic, going from a hard atheist to a friend of God.
Yeah, you were a pretty hard atheist like myself. A lot more knowledgeable, but definitely, I was shocked. And one of the mistakes I made is so we as YouTubers have a platform, and therefore we need to be, in my opinion, as responsible as possible with it, because we can say something and people can go to the ends of the earth with it. So for instance, I made a post just saying, we lost an atheist YouTuber to Islam. And unfortunately, some of the people commenting, it started some hate, which I ended up taking them down because I don't want to be a part of that. I want to have these conversations. I want to build bridges. The last thing I want to do is cause, more issues or more disconnect between with people. So why are you still going by the empathetic atheist? Shouldn't it be like the empathetic Muslim? I've been dying to ask that.
Why would you say empathetic atheist?
Isn't that what you went by, EA?
Yes, the EA, the name has changed, and I've said it in the previous shows that I've been in. EA, I wanted to keep it the same letters, but change it to something else. So now the EA show stands for Exploring Arguments.
Oh, dude, that's pretty creative. Okay, cool. So let's jump right into things. Well, actually, before we go to that, how long have you been? Only because I've heard rumors that you have been a deist for some time now before turning to Islam. Is that at all true?
Like a week, maybe not even a week.
Oh, okay. So you haven't been. And how long ago did you specifically convert?
I would say about 3 weeks ago. I said my Shahada, and then last Sunday I went on the Thought Adventure podcast with my Muslim brothers and said my Shahada on their show. So I just basically made it public.
And what was it like, before we get into why you were convinced, what did you experience after coming out?
After coming out, so I tried to come out little tiny baby steps at a time. Hopefully not a lot of people would notice, as in make a big deal about it. Notice,
like I did.
And it totally took a turn for the worse. No, I changed the picture, I changed my profile picture on Facebook, not to have any Islamic or Arabic words in the back, but just to have it was like a guy standing and then a guy, kneeling and a guy, praying. So it was like the Muslim prayer positions. And I was like, let's just sit there for a few days and see if anybody knows. If they don't notice, we'll change the name, put the nickname on there. We'll take these little tiny steps at a time, just hoping for this not to blow up, because I don't feel like I'm that important of a person for everybody to be freaking out about this.
Okay, that's where I would disagree. Not necessary level of importance, But I think anytime any YouTuber of one position goes a completely other direction, I think everybody's going to be surprised. I mean, would you not be shocked right now if I was like, hey, your friendly neighborhood Christian reporting for duty? Like, whether you're happy for me or not is different from being shocked in and of itself. And I think it's totally right to be like, holy shit, was not expecting that.
I can understand that. I can understand. It wasn't as shocking for me because the whole time while I was doing my show, I was always saying, I am open-minded. I want to hear people's arguments. I cannot choose what I'm convinced of, and I want to hear what you have to say and actually take what you have to say into consideration and listen. Now, I'm not saying that atheists that don't convert to a religion are closed-minded or anything like that. I'm not saying that whatsoever because just something has not convinced them. But I do believe that a lot of atheists that do claim to be open-minded are not exactly open-minded. And I saw that with the response that I got on Facebook of how dare you go to a religion? How dare you do this? And I'm like, what do you mean? How dare I? Like, I'm sorry. Like, did I offend you by changing my religious belief?
It's not. Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be I can't determine whether people will be offended by that or not. Real quick, just to P, thank you for the super chat. They say thanks, YFNA, for bringing on Khalil. Question for Khalil: is Allah synonymous with the vernacular God that even non-Muslims may use it interchangeably?
I don't know what that means.
Okay, so I'm trying to think how, because I've always wondered there's two. If I say the words Allah, could I still be referring to the Christian God? Like, is the name interchangeable with God?
So in the Quran it states Allah and God. Now with the Christian God, you can say God or Elohim or God or Yahweh. So Yahweh is not interchangeable with Allah, but God, I think God is more of like a blanket term, a blanket label that you can put on it when you get specific gods like Yahweh, Elohim, Flying Spaghetti Monster. Like, they're all God, but it's one. I guess that could be a blanket statement. So yeah.
So tell me about the moment you had, let's just call it an epiphany. Like, was it over? Like, I know you said it was about 8 months that you were talking to these people, but was there like all of a sudden an aha moment where you were like, holy crap, I'm no longer an atheist. I believe in Allah. Like, walk me through.
It wasn't really a lot of people like to think it was like a turn of the page. I woke up the next day and I was a theist all of a sudden. No, it was over the course of the 8 months, slowly, I was seeing that the argument for Islam on the philosophical side, which is the only side that I, am talking about, the stuff that's in the Quran, we'll get to that later. But so it was over a certain amount of time to where I started to realize how strong the arguments were for general theism. Then I started to see how all of these other belief systems were getting knocked down by myself through logic and reason. I was finding logical incoherencies and contradictions within other religious views and God claims, and Islam seemed to be standing there. And I was trying my hardest to find any paper I could, any academic book that I could read to try and prove Islam wrong and bring my Muslim friends that I love speaking to, bring them down a few pegs. Right. Like, you guys aren't that cool. Like, your God's not that strong. Your arguments aren't that strong. But seeing it, nobody, even the other people that I brought into the Facebook rooms when I brought my Muslim friends on the show, and I would bring experts in the field like full-time philosophers and, astrophysicists on the show to like talk about the Kalam. Like, those guys were eventually conceding to my Muslim brothers' points. And I'm like, like, how can that happen? These are experts. So it wasn't overnight thing. I eventually was like just suppressing it for a couple weeks to where I was like, I already know these guys are right, but like I got a YouTube show, I got an atheist family, like I got all this stuff, on my plate. Am I strong? Like, can I be, can I make this change if I need to? What? Am I open-minded to make the change, or am I going to hide this from the community? And I'm an honest person. I can't lie to people. It wouldn't feel right. So I just ended up coming out.
So before we get into like those arguments, I've been wondering, like, how has this impacted your family, both from a social media standpoint and a day-to-day standpoint? Because I understand it's Ramadan right now, so I'm assuming you are fasting.
Oh yeah. I can eat something in about 15 minutes, but we'll wait until the show ends. I can wait.
Well, okay. So normally I would say no, but if you need to at least like throw a snack down real quick, we're good.
Okay, I'm all right.
How has it impacted your family?
So changes I need to make are taking a couple minutes out of my day, 5 times a day to go pray. It normally takes no more than 5 to 7 minutes to pray, depending on the prayer. There are things called rakat, which means that the rakats are revolutions of the prayer. So you say what's called an al-Fatiha, and you do specific things, and then that's one succession of it. And like in the morning, I wake up at 6 and I do 2 successions of prayer. And then the next one is 4 successions. Then the next one is 4, then 3, then 4. And that's the 5 prayers of the day. So times differentiate, but I mean, I'm only taking a few minutes out of my day to go pray. A lot of the times I'm at work during the day anyways, so I'm not even home for the prayer. So I'll just go to a park and I'll, park my truck and go to a field, lay out my prayer blanket, face Mecca and pray. I get a lot of weird looks. A lot of people just staring at me, looking like I got like some suicide vest strapped on me, ready to blow.
Well, I don't think that. I mean,
no, I'm not saying that you do. I'm saying the looks that I get when I'm at a park, just praying, minding my own business. Like, I'm a white man who knew that I had white privilege, and now that I am out praying as a Muslim, they see this on my head, they see the prayer mat, they see me kneeling down and putting my nose in the ground. I'm feeling that hatred. I'm feeling that stereotype, and as I never felt before as a white man.
I'd be curious to know like how you can really tell that. Like, is it just the way people are looking at you now?
Picture yourself walking through a mall, freshly pissed your pants, and you can tell how people are looking at you. It's like that.
Okay. I do want to jump more into the arguments, but I do have a question from Dragnot. Are any of the reasons you converted to Islam similar to the reasons you rejected from like Christians as an atheist? So, for example, the Kalam cosmological argument was one that you rejected for Christianity, but you've accepted for Islam. Is that correct or incorrect?
So I think you're asking a different question than he is, so I'll try and answer both depending on the context, just to make sure everybody gets their answer.
Thank you.
So I left Christianity for emotional reasons. I did not join Islam for emotional reasons. I still feel no emotions. When I pray, I don't feel the presence of God. A lot of the times I'm just going through the motions, as if I'm just talking to myself.
Right.
So it was the reason and logic and philosophical arguments that convinced me of this position. And now I'm embracing the position, hoping that in due time, the emotional aspects of the belief will, come out of the woodwork.
Okay. So it's not based on feelings at all. And you
Not at
right
all.
now, you're not even hearing God or talking.
No, no.
So,
I mean, I'm talking to God as in I'm praying and I'm doing my prayers, and that prayer is meant to be facing Mecca and meant to be towards and for God, for Allah. But I'm not hearing anything back. If it was something that was on an emotional basis and I had some personal experience, I wouldn't be a Muslim. I'd be checking myself into a hospital.
okay. Question, $5 super chat from Dean. Thanks. What evidence would convince you that Christianity is true?
Okay, so there are multiple logical contradictions within Christianity that would need to be resolved for me to even consider it. Those things would be, depending on what you hold to: 1, the logical problem of the Trinity; 2, the logical problem of the incarnation; 3, the logical problem of the atonement. And if you hold to absolute divine simplicity, you would need to resolve that also.
Okay, Dean, I hope that answers your question. So as I understand it, the kalam was one of the arguments. What other arguments played a hand in your mind being changed?
So how I was convinced of the position I currently hold will be the way that I interact. I think this is a good time to put this in. Will be the way that I interact with others when they want to know why I believe what I believe and what convinced me. And if they're open-minded to being convinced, I will be using the same route that I took. First, we need to sit down and talk about epistemology. We need to see if we have a coherent, non-contradictory standards of evidence for claims that we make. For example, do we believe that other minds exist due to empirical data? And if we don't, and we accept that because it's the most reasonable way to describe the world that we live in, can we do that with other philosophical arguments? If we're to reject doing that with other philosophical arguments, we would need to figure out a reason on why we have different standards of evidence for different claims, which as an atheist, I was calling Christians out all the time for doing that. And now that I see it, I'm calling atheists out for doing the same thing. Not saying that you specifically would do that, but most of the conversations that I've had with atheists since converting has been exactly that. We haven't been able to really get past the epistemological conversation, but if we were to get past that, and then we were on the same page that empiricism is bunk and your empiricism is self-refuting, if we can understand that, then we can move to the kalam. The kalam describes that a God exists, so don't let any other theist tell you that it's an argument for God's existence. It's an argument that tries to show it's reasonable to believe that the universe has a cause and began to exist. Once you're there, do you want to stop and talk about that for a minute?
No, please. I mean, I don't like. I get that the kalam is not technically an argument for God, but people do use it as one.
Yes, it's a series of baby steps that get you to general theism. And then once you get to general theism, then I have a series of elimination that I use for specific God claims.
So what is it now? Because from my understanding, you did reject the kalam for a long period of time. Why now do you find it convincing?
Because my epistemology was flawed before, and my epistemology was fixed. And now that my epistemology is fixed, I see the arguments in a completely new light. So, like, for example, before I said, well, hold on, wait a second. We can reject the first premise of the Kalam cosmological argument, which is everything that begins to exist has a cause for its existence. We can deny that because we don't know if everything that began to exist has a cause. We've not observed that. We don't have any demonstrable evidence to back that claim up, which I'm sure most of the atheists here would agree with what I just said. But the issue is do we believe that other minds exist? Do we have any empirical data for that belief? Do we believe it because it's reasonable to believe and it best describes the world that we live in? If we can do it for that, why can't we do it for other philosophical arguments? The kalam, the word kalam is an Arabic word.
Okay.
It was formulated by a Ghazali, which is a Muslim philosopher. He's the one that coined that argument, and William Lane Craig later found it and brought it back to the surface and started using it again. So it's not William Lane Craig. This is actually a philosophical Muslim argument.
When you say, well, I have an epistemology question now, but Dean, question. So thanks for the $5 super chat. If those issues can be resolved, would you then be a Christian? If so, would love to chat offline.
I'm still at this point still open to hearing any arguments anybody has for any God claim that they have that they believe in, or atheism. You know, if they have any arguments that points out logical contradictions within my belief. I'm not interested in the flying donkeys, pedophile prophet, you know, all this other crap that comes out of the Quran. And I'm not calling what comes out of the Quran crap. I'm saying that the things that are being said are more of an insulting remark rather than a sincere question.
Well, so on that, and we did talk about this before we went live to ask if I could bring it up, and you said it was okay.
Sure.
Mohammed, from my understanding, did have a 9-year-old wife or girlfriend. Is that...
It's not resolved. So there are multiple hadiths in the Quran itself. It does not even state her age. So you know how the Bible uses genealogy to try and figure out, you know, a young earth creationist would say that due to the genealogy of the Bible and this person begat this person begat this person, they can take that timeline back of genealogy to say that we're around 6,000 to 10,000 years old of an earth.
Okay. Events
happen, and during those events in certain hadith, which hadith is not the word of God. It is the imams and the leaders after the prophet, peace be upon him, died, had formulated certain things, things about the prophet's life, things that the prophet said, things that happened. And there are multiple ones. There is an argument out there that I'm actually looking into right now that states that Aisha, his wife, was actually around 16 to 19 years old. So that resolves that. But let's just say that wasn't there. We need to look at, these are human beings in a certain time. Now, let's just say he married Aisha at 6 years old and consummated at 9, which is what most people and a lot of Muslims actually back up. Today, that sounds completely gross. It's horrible. It's disgusting. It's not right at all. 1,400 years ago, girls were raised from birth to be mothers, to be literally baby factories. Like, they weren't raised to play with their doll houses and color unicorns and pink ponies. They were literally raised to be wives. And the general lifespan of somebody during that time was around 40 years. So if you want to have a lot of children, you got to start early. So it's today, it's a disgusting thing to think of, but if she bleeds, she breeds. You know, that was kind of the mentality back then, that if she was physically ready to bear children, let's get those children out, let's get that family started so those children can grow up and have children of their own, knowing that we only normally last around about 40 years.
Okay, this actually kind of turns my stomach a little bit. Like, to me, it would never be okay. Like, it's that's
why is it never okay to you?
What you kind of just said to me is something, and if I'm drawing a false comparison or being insensitive, anyone in the audience, please let me know. But this kind of sounds like when let's bring race and slavery into it. When people say, well, it was acceptable for the time. Like, to me, I don't care if it was acceptable for the time. It's wrong. And wouldn't a prophet for an all-knowing God know that that is wrong?
Why would a prophet know? Is a prophet omniscient?
No, but don't they get their like morality and know right from wrong from God?
They get their morality, yes, from God, that God is the objective moral standard, yes. But does that necessarily mean that they are forced to follow it? They're humans. They're fallible. They sin. They do things wrong. We're not all knowing. I'm sure you've done things in your life that you're not proud of.
Yeah, but not a child, man. That's like...
Well, here's the thing. You're going off of today's society, which I don't disagree with you. I have 3 daughters, right? I have 5 kids. 3 of them are my daughters. And I would not want anybody to lay their hands on them until they were 18. But that is due to the society that we were raised in, to say that this is disgusting. These girls are raised in this specific way to let them enjoy their childhood. We live to be 80 something years old, on average, 60 to 80 years old. So our lifespan is a lot longer. So we can wait a little bit and let the kids enjoy their childhood as they grow up. And then once they're comfortable and once they've gone through the education system that our society now has set up, you're looking at things using this societal lens and then taking that societal lens and going back 14 years and implying that societal lens on Bronze Age people.
Okay, so I'm going to try and draw an analogy here. And just from this moment forward, I get trigger warning. I really wasn't expecting it to go down this path, but anyone watching, if you're uncomfortable with this topic, I highly recommend...
Looks like there are a few.
Turning it off now. If right now there was another country or an isolated island, and in said isolated island, they raised children the same way you're saying like they did back then, because it's okay in that society, are you saying it's still okay then?
No, I'm going to say that it's wrong because the society that I grew up in. I am indoctrinated into my societal views, just like you are, just like anybody else is. Back then, those people were indoctrinated into their societal views, which they didn't see it was wrong because their society didn't say it was wrong.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. They had a very different outlook, but that still doesn't mean it's okay. Like that to me, those type of...
I'll say it again. I don't think it's okay. I agree with you and everybody else whose stomachs are turning in the chat. I agree that I think that's disgusting. Okay. 1400 years ago, it wasn't so disgusting to those people. So I want to make that clear because it seems like, especially in the chat, that I am actually making excuses for pedophilia right now.
Well, so to be fair, it does sound like that, whether you mean to or not. When you
I made it extremely clear that that is not what I'm doing.
The way you said, like, it sounds like you're justifying why it was okay back then.
I said specifically that I wasn't justifying or coming up with excuses that I think it's disgusting. How much more clear could I be than that?
So, okay, let's say, and I'd like to get away from this topic in a moment, but let's say Muhammad was with this child. Times or not, would you condemn his actions right now for taking advantage of a child?
So yes, without hesitation, yes, I would, because I was raised in a society where that's wrong. So yes, right off the bat, I would condemn it.
Okay, so you don't stand behind Muhammad's choice to be with a child. Like there's wrong. You're not excusing that.
Muhammad's choice on to be with the child was in a different society with different people. That's completely out of my hands. I could give 2 shits, what Muhammad, was doing at that time, or if he was doing something wrong, then yes, I'd totally call him out on it. And I believe with my societal views today that what he did was wrong according to today's society. But you have to say, was he wrong according to his own time's society? Which, no, he was not wrong. It was a normal thing that happened with Muslims, non-Muslims, the whole works. Actually, if people read into this, Islam, the Prophet Muhammad, actually went and tried to make a change. It was the first religion to where he was trying to make sure that women could choose who they married and when they got married.
Okay, so... okay, why follow the teachings of someone that was willing to do that?
What do you mean, why follow? So earlier when I stated that I was convinced because of philosophical argumentation and I wasn't interested in talking about the Quran or the things that happened in the Quran, I'm not sure what philosophical argumentations, is coming up now, because I specifically stated that I am not versed in the Quran in any way to defend it. And I believe that tonight, the only questions that are going to come out from the chat to me are things about the Quran, because the people that are in the chat have no backing on philosophical argumentation. If they do, I would love to hear their argumentation for the philosophical side of what actually convinced me. I'm not a scholar within the Quran. I don't know everything about the Quran. I still have demons that I'm fighting when it comes to morality, because I still am a humanist. I still love everybody. I still think that, personally, my opinion is that there's nothing wrong with homosexuality, LGBTQ. I still hold the same moral views as I did before. My God says it's wrong, and I don't understand why. He has a reason why. I don't understand why, but that is not what convinced me, and that's something that I'm still battling right now. But what I do know is that I was convinced due to philosophical argumentation. J Camp, that's fine. You don't have to be light on me. I can defend myself perfectly fine. I just want to make sure it's clear that I said that I was convinced because of philosophical argumentation, not because of what's in the Quran. So if you guys have any philosophical questions, I would love to answer them.
Okay, so let's get into those. What were all the arguments that changed your mind?
Okay. So the Kalam cosmological argument was the first one after we straightened out my epistemology that was totally flawed and wrong. After we fixed that, I saw that we could hold good reason. We could have good reasons to believe certain things, not based off of empirical evidence or observation, but based off of reason and logic. So a rationalist view rather than an empiricist view. So looking at the Kalam cosmological argument, everything that begins to exist has a cause for its existence. Okay, everything that I have observed and people around me have observed that come into existence have a cause for its existence. So it's reasonable to believe that things that come into existence have a cause. Accept that? Are we good there?
No. Okay.
Okay.
I see that the likelihood that because everything we've seen comes into existence at some point, that it's reasonable to think there is a cause. But we don't necessarily know that. So I can't accept that.
Yeah. Do we know that gravity is a fact?
Science is my weak area.
This isn't science.
Isn't it the theory of gravity?
It's just a theory. It's not actually a fact.
A theory? Come on. Come on.
No. I don't want to downplay a theory. A theory is the graduating point of an idea. But what we need to realize is that science does not give absolute facts. It doesn't give absolute knowledge. It gives us models that best describe the universe, best describe the reality that we live in. So that's not absolute. Argumentation, philosophical argumentation, gives you the best reason to believe something is true. So no method that we have gives us absolute facts. It's just, I would say that is a fact, is that no argumentation or observation within the scientific community gives us any absolute facts. So we're going off of the best model that we can come up with, or we're going off of the best argumentation that it describes our universe or reality.
So, and please correct me, it almost sounds like you're trying to challenge the scientific method, the way we determine our reality, as a way to lend more credence to these philosophical arguments.
Science is a subset, a subclass of philosophy. So without philosophy, science wouldn't exist.
Okay. How do you know that the universe has a cause or began to exist? And I
have good reason to believe that it began to exist.
So because you, so I'm so confused on how like the kalam and what did you say the other arguments were that in addition to the
So
kalam?
after we agree that the universe had a cause and began to exist, and there was a cause for its existence, you would get into the contingency argument. The contingency argument. Go ahead.
Sorry. So how do you? All right, 1 second. Super chat from Holy Spackle. Thank you. I'm a theist. Can you explain how you can decide which God is the creator? The kalam gets you to a creator, which could even be a deistic God.
I want to correct the Holy Spackle. No, the Kalam does not get you to a creator. The Kalam gets you to a necessary existence. That doesn't mean a creator. That doesn't mean that it has a will. Basically, the Kalam gets you to something to where you could argue that reality is what caused the universe to exist. You could make that argument at that point, and it would be justified and it would be reasonable to say that reality is fundamental to existence itself, and that the universe emerged from reality, and now we have our different subjective perspectives and experiences living in the shared reality that we do as human beings. So you could say, after the Kalam, I get that. The universe began, it was caused by reality. You could say that.
But how do you know the universe began and hasn't just indefinitely been here?
I don't know, and I don't think anybody really knows anything except for maybe that they exist or they're experiencing something.
Then if you don't know, and if we can't necessarily demonstrate that, then why would you accept that?
Because I accept that other minds exist. Can you demonstrate that other minds exist?
No. But
you accept it because it's reasonable to believe, right?
Yeah, in order to...
And this is exactly what I was talking about before, is that you have a different standards of evidence for different philosophical claims. Why?
Because the universe beginning to exist is an astronomical claim that we can't necessarily demonstrate. It's in order for me to live my best life, I have to operate in a way that recognizes there are other people with other minds. That's the best way, at least from my understanding, to live my best life, is accepting that. So I don't necessarily have to accept that the universe began to exist.
You don't have to accept that other minds exist either. You could just ignore people and not treat them however you want to treat them because they're just your imagination. I mean, you don't have to accept it. At
this point, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're not saying you know that the universe began to exist.
No. The best explanation that we have is to say that things that begin to exist have a cause, because we have observed using induction, we have observed things coming into existence, and when they do, we've observed the causes that cause them to come into existence. This skepticism that you're using, which I used it before when I was an atheist, the skepticism that you're using, you wouldn't be able to say that it's reasonable to believe that the sun's going to come up tomorrow morning, because we haven't observed it and know that it's going to come up tomorrow morning, so it's not reasonable to believe. But if you use induction, every single day that you've woken up, that you've been alive, you've seen the sun come up.
Right.
It means that you can take that data and that information and say it's reasonable to believe that tomorrow morning the sun's going to come up. Just like saying everything that... Go ahead.
Sorry, I'll let you finish.
So using that same reason and logic, you can say that everything that I've seen that has come into existence, that has began to exist, there's been a cause for it. There's something that caused it to come into existence. So just using the same method of induction that you do for knowing that or believing that the sun's going to come up tomorrow, you also now have good reason to believe that things that begin to exist have a cause. If you reject that, then your standards of evidence are once again inconsistent with other philosophical claims.
That seems like a false dichotomy, though, because I can actually verify that the sun is going to come up. I can't verify that the universe was created.
How can you verify that the sun's going to come up tomorrow?
Sorry, I have an example of the sun coming up, and tomorrow morning I'll be able to verify that the sun came up. How do
I have examples of things? I have examples of things coming into existence that have causes. So when I look at something else that comes into existence, it's reasonable to believe that there was a cause for it. I'm using the same reasoning that you just did.
But we don't actually have any examples of the universe beginning to exist. So why would you accept
Okay. So let's assume now that we have an eternal universe, a universe that had never began to exist. Okay. There's an infinite amount of a series of causes and effects that would precede this moment right now. Think of every cause and effect as a domino, right? And the one domino knocks the next one down, and that is the cause that creates the effect of it falling down, but that effect is the next cause to create the next effect. If there's an infinite amount of causes and effects that preceded this moment right now, how would we ever get to this moment right now?
I got a little lost there.
Okay, take the number 10, divide it by 2. What do you get?
5.
Divide that by 2.
2.5.
If you keep dividing that by 2, will you ever get to 0? No. It's an infinite regression. 0 is this moment right now. And each time you divide by 2, that is an infinite amount of causes and effects that preceded the 0. You would never get to this moment right now if the universe was eternal. And this is philosophically speaking. This is just using logic and reason to show that it's most reasonable to believe that the universe had a beginning, because if it was eternal, we would never be able to get to this moment right now.
Okay, so say there was a beginning. Well, here, let me get to these super chats before they go away. Kenneth Leonard.
Okay.
Please define knowledge. What does it mean to know something?
Okay, knowledge is what's called a JTB, or a justified true belief. So you have a belief. If you can justify it, that's internal, that's subjective. You can justify it yourself, and then once you can show to the best of our abilities when it comes to either philosophy or the scientific method, then you can show it to be true. Now, like I said before, scientific method and philosophy does not claim any absolute truths. So you could never be philosophically certain about really anything except that you're having an experience right now. There's no philosophical confirmation or philosophical absolute certainty. Now, we can be psychologically certain of certain claims, which means that internally I have good reason to believe what I believe. Okay. And if it's refuted, then I drop it and I find something else, just like I did with determinism, just like I did with my neo-Nazi days to when I was a white supremacist. Like, I dropped all of that stuff because I was shown to be wrong.
Okay. It's times like these I wish I knew more philosophy and epistemology, because I feel it could be a deeper conversation that could be had here, but I'm limited by my knowledge set. Dragnot says, how is solipsism involved with the Kalam?
It's not involved with the Kalam. It was an example that I used to show that Ethan had a different standards of evidence for the philosophical claims that he observed and he investigated. For one philosophical claim, he said that it was okay to not have empirical evidence and to not have confirmation of said claim, aka minds existing. And it was okay because it best described the world that he lived in. But when it came to the Kalam, when you would use the same reasoning, he said that we needed to confirm that. And that's the analogy that I was making, or the comparison that I was making between two philosophical claims that had different standards of evidence for each claim. So I wouldn't say they're linked together.
Okay. And then in a moment, I do want to move on from the Kalam, because I don't want to get stuck on it the whole time. But
sure.
P, thanks for the super chat. What's your understanding on the core tenet of Islam as how the Prophet presented it? Is that what your conversion is pivoted on, or the later stuff from, I'm sorry if I'm saying this wrong, Al-Kindi and
Al-Kindi and Al-Ghazali. Al-Ghazali, that's the guy I mentioned that came up with the Kalam. Al-Ghazali is the person who was coined with the Kalam. So no, my conversion was my hinge pin of the conversion was simply exactly what Ethan and myself are talking about right now, the philosophical argumentation to get you to general theism. And I'll further answer your question after we get past that. But if you want to move on for just conversation's sake, grant me the Kalam. Just say, okay, it's most reasonable to believe the things that begin to exist have a cause. I'm not going to hold you to it in further discussions. You can still reject it later, but to move forward, would you be okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Try not. Thanks again for the $5 super chat. No one uses the same criteria for evidence of all things. The tangent from Kalam still doesn't really add much to the discussion.
Okay, you're free to believe that.
So, okay, obviously I don't accept the Kalam, but for the sake of not getting stuck on it, let's move on to how, because where did the Kalam specifically get you? Was it to deism?
It got you to the universe having a cause for its existence. Now we need to look at what was that cause. That's why when the theist came on and posted their chat and said that this gets you to God, that's why I said, no, it does not. It does not get you to God. And that's what a lot of atheists would say is that this argument's useless. It doesn't even prove that God exists. Well, I agree with you. It doesn't prove that God exists. It's not meant to prove that God exists. So once you get to the end and accept the conclusion of the Kalam, now we know that the universe has a cause for its existence. Once we're there, we need to find out what this thing is that caused the universe. Now, this is before Planck time, which means that this is outside of the bounds of the scientific method whatsoever. So it's outside of science. We use reasoning and logic to try and figure out what the best explanation for said claim is. We could sit there and shrug our shoulders and say, I don't want to know all day. And that's totally fine. If you want to stay there, that's fine. But within the academic papers and books that I have been reading, the Routledge Companions, the Oxford Handbooks, I can't just sit there. I want to find out what the answer is. And if I can't find the answer, I want to hold the most rational position that I can on the claim. I'm always open to refining that claim, just like science keeps refining the age of the universe and the age of the earth. Every couple of months, the number changes because we keep refining our answers. That's not, you can't say the world is definitely 13.8 billion years old because 6 years ago, it wasn't 13.8 billion years old. But that was the answer then. And then we got better at reasoning and better at science and better at a lot of different things. And now we're able to say, okay, we have a more refined answer on the claim. So once we're there, we say, what created the universe? And let me take that back. I don't mean to say what created the universe because we're not even there yet. What caused the universe to begin to exist? Like I said, we could say it's reality. We could definitely say that. Okay. Reality is a non-sentient, non-intelligent, abstract, immaterial thing that existed that caused the universe to begin to exist. We still don't have a God. We still will have the natural processes of how the solar systems were made, and we still have, abiogenesis, and we still have evolution, and we don't have some, North Korean dictator, as some people like to call God, hovering over, watching us from the skies. It's still just a completely natural process, just with a finite universe.
Okay, so Ameet, thanks for the $5 super chat. If you believe the existence of Allah, why would you follow a being that demands worship? I believe my parents exist. I don't worship them. So that's a question I always do want to ask theists, is why? Like, why does something need to be worshipped?
So we would need to figure out what I mean by worship and what you mean by worship. Because by worship, I mean hold in the highest regard. So if Allah is what created me, and Allah likes to interact somehow with his creation, and he wants me to get down and pray to him 5 times a day, it seems as if when I pray to Allah, that's a form of communication. That's how I would communicate with Allah. Well, here's the thing. If Allah wants to communicate to me, what's he going to have to do? He's going to have to pray, because that's how we communicate with each other. Allah would then be praying to me, and my own views, I think that Allah would pray to me. Now, worship me because I am his creation. But that's the best I can explain. But then again, I'm a human and I'm a new Muslim, so I really don't understand.
So get me to where you're at right now, and
Okay.
yeah, dude, walk me through the next steps of going from the universe had a cause to specifically a God.
What caused? Okay. So what caused the universe? You have to think of what caused the universe. Now, is this something that was it reality? Was it something that was just static? That was just a singular thing that didn't have anything. So it has to be for us to not fall into an infinite regression. We could say that was another universe that created our universe, like a multiverse theory. That's out there in the scientific community, is the multiverse theory. Okay, cool. So that universe created this universe. So what created that universe? Because that's a contingent universe. And then you get this infinite regression, once again, of universes and series of causes and effects that you could never get to this universe. So there has to be something that's fundamental. There has to be something that's necessary and self-sufficient, something that is eternal,
But
for
why?
to avoid the infinite regression.
So wait, that sounds like I don't want to call the fallacy because I could be wrong on this. The God of the gaps, where it's like instead of like, why doesn't the infinite regress apply to God? Like, it sounds like you're just saying, hey, because I don't believe there can be an infinite regress, therefore God.
Okay, so things like universe and things that are contained within a universe, would you say that they decay? Would you say that they needed something else to exist?
Sorry, would I say that what needs something else to exist?
Anything in our universe or our universe itself, for conversation's sake, you've already accepted that the universe had a beginning and a cause. So would you say that the universe and everything in the universe was dependent on something else for its existence?
Is the current universe dependent on something else for its existence?
Yes. Or anything in the universe?
I mean, so I'm having trouble with this one. Are you saying like,
if you've accepted the Kalam cosmological argument, and that's just for this conversation, that means that you accept that this universe began to exist, which means that everything in this universe contained within it could not exist if the universe itself didn't exist.
okay,
So everything that contained in the universe is dependent on the universe's existence itself.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, continue.
So then you could say that if the universe, like everything that's contained within the universe, has a cause and is dependent or contingent upon something else, then it would need that other thing to cause it to exist. So to keep from the infinite regression, you need something that has not been caused to exist. Something that's atemporal, that doesn't fall into space, time, or matter.
Okay.
That's the only way that you can get out of an infinite regression. So we're jumping down a deep rabbit hole right now. But once you sit there and that face that you're making, the thinking of what I can say to combat this was about 4 or 5 months of the 8 months that I was talking to these guys, trying to figure out a way how to defeat this problem right here.
Well, it doesn't sound like a problem so much as you're saying and please correct me if I'm wrong, but it basically sounds like I can't accept that the the universe could have an infinite regress, or that another universe didn't create this universe. So therefore, I'm going to attach this God label. That's
no. I never said God. I haven't said God yet.
An entity,
but a necessary existence of some type, not an entity, not a deity, not a God. We're not even there yet. Whatever this thing is, whatever it is that caused the universe to exist, could not be temporal and contingent like the universe itself, because then we would need to beg the question, what created that? And then what created that? Then what created that? And then now we have another infinite regression that we can't get to this universe again. So we're at this moment, and we're in this universe. So there needed to be some way to be able to get here. And if an infinite regression makes that impossible for us to do, then we need something that's fundamental. Yes, thanks, Kyle. We need something that's fundamental, that's necessary, that's self-sufficient, that caused this universe to exist. Now, we could still say that is reality. But if this doesn't have some type of consciousness or agency of some sort, like if I want to pick up my phone, I pick up my phone, right? My phone was caused to be lifted off the table. If I don't have agency or anything, can I pick up my phone?
No.
You can't make a change. You can't be a force that acts upon something or chooses to do something unless you have some kind of agency. So if this thing has always existed and is necessary, that it needed some type of way to, and we're actually jumping from the contingency argument to the necessary being argument to the argument for a will. These two kind of mesh together, these two arguments.
So unapologetically, me kind of corrected. So an earthquake can move your phone with no agency. Yeah.
Do earthquakes exist without the universe?
Well, no, obviously not.
Okay, so that's contingent upon the universe, and the universe is contingent upon something else. So the phone moving because of an earthquake would still have to go back to something that's necessary and self-sufficient.
Okay, so far, if I'm understanding, you went from, you didn't find the kalam compelling, but then eventually, after you adjusted your epistemology, you found it compelling. Following that, the argument from contingency is what brought you to a creator?
No. So once we got past the kalam, the universe has a cause for its existence. There has to be something that's fundamental and necessary and self-sufficient, that's eternal, that caused it to exist, and then have the argument and be convinced that whatever this is to create the universe and to not be alone by itself in existence, it would need some kind of agency to bring that. Now, after that, you are at general theism. So now you believe in a necessary causal principle for the universe that is self-sufficient, that is necessary, and that caused the universe to exist. So now you're at a necessary being, a God of some sort, because by definition, whatever this necessary thing is, by its attributes, would be God. So now you go look at the specific claims that have been made to you by specific religions and do what's called an internal critique on that religion, on that religious claim. And you go off of the laws of logic, which both you and the theist, that your interlocutor, you both value being logical. So you take identity, non-contradiction, and excluded middle. And what you do is you take these three simple, fundamental laws of logic, classical laws of logic, and apply them to your reality with these claims. So once these other religious beliefs start showing logical contradictions, you throw them out the window. You get rid of them. You move to the next. You throw that one out. Polytheism is gone. You know, by definition, if God is God, you can't have multiple necessary beings in charge of each other. That just doesn't make any sense. Polytheism's out. Any religion that's polytheistic, you're gone. Next. and you keep going down the line, going to Christianity. I've seen multiple arguments had, debates had. I've had multiple conversations with Christians who are Trinitarians. They cannot resolve a logical apparent contradiction of identity with the Trinity. So Trinitarian model's out. The omniscience paradox is out.
I really wish I had someone that knew philosophy better right now. I would like to get Aunt Jer brings up a really good question. Crap, where did it go? Question. Why change your entire life and how you live it based on philosophical word games? I'm hearing a lot of ifs. Why not just live your life? And that's, for me, that's where I don't find philosophical arguments to be compelling, because they just, from everything I've heard, there are a lot of assertions that can't necessarily be backed up. And it sounds like in the beginning, you agree that you don't necessarily know that there's a God, but you're going to believe it.
So the last 20 seconds that you just spoke, are you convinced of what you said?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know that that's philosophical argumentation?
That what's philosophical argumentation?
What you just said, that you don't think that it's that it's possible to think that these things are reasonable to believe in. You're making an assertion right there.
Right, but I actually can rewind this stream and show there's evidence for that. It's not just an assertion. Sorry, it's not just a blanket assumption or assertion. I'm actually saying something and I can verify that I've said it. But with the Kalam, we can't verify that the universe began.
But hold on, wait. If you can't verify, if you can't solve the hard problem of solipsism, your verification could just be a figment of your imagination. So how could you actually know that you've proved it wrong?
But we can't solve hard solipsism. But not being able to solve hard solipsism doesn't equal God.
No. I never said it did. I'm saying that you are saying that you can verify these things and confirm these things, yet you've already admitted that you don't know that you can't prove that other minds exist.
Right. I have to operate.
So the confirmation that you're asking for other claims, you can't even give to solipsism and be able to say, well, I know that the confirmation that I'm showing, the way that I'm validating my claims, aren't just figments of my imagination.
Well, I didn't say they were figments of your imagination, but the claims you're making can't be verified, is my point.
Neither can us believing, or neither can other minds. That can't be verified. So any interaction or experience that you have in your life due to the hard problem of solipsism, within a view to where you have no grounding for that, you have no way to verify anything.
Right. But so like I said, we have to accept that we live in a world with other minds, but not having a solution for hard solipsism has nothing to do with whether a God exists or not.
No, it doesn't. And I'll say this again. The reason why I bring up solipsism is because you made a claim that you can verify what you're claiming to be true, correct?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Let's just say you say something in the stream, and then after the stream's over, you can rewind the stream and verify that you said that, right?
Yes.
If you can't solve the hard problem of solipsism, how do you know you're actually solving it? How do you know that you're actually confirming what you said?
Now it seems like you're diverting. I think you and I, Justin, you and I are both thinking beings. We both know damn well that you and I are talking well right now. We're at least.
I do believe that. Yes.
That you believe it. Yes. So
yes,
the fact that
not with any type of confirmation, not with any type of observation, just with it best describes the reality that I live in.
Right. So we can accept that.
Okay.
So we don't need to deal with solipsism, because I think you and I can both accept that we can't solve hard solipsism. So we need to operate in a reality where we know other minds, we're confident other minds exist. So, I hate when I lose my train of thought. So back to the philosophical arguments. Again, they just seem like nothing more than claims that can't be verified. Like just, hey, the universe began to exist. The universe had a cause. And then moving on to it had a creator. Like, how do we actually demonstrate any of these?
Why would we need to demonstrate? Can we demonstrate gravity?
Yeah. Oh, I don't want to drop that. Gravity demonstrated.
Have you solved the hard problem of solipsism?
No, why do you? Okay, now I think you're playing games with me.
No. That's legitimately in the world of academia. This is literally the conversations that are being had with the experts in the field. The expert philosophers are having this exact conversation right now. So to call it wordplay and to call it pedantics, like a lot of the chat is trying to say that I'm just some Darth Dawkins, this is literally what the experts in the field are talking about. So to call it wordplay or pedantics is slapping academia across the face.
For the record, though, I didn't put that comment on screen for a reason, and my chat moderators have already hid someone making some offhanded comments. So
I understand.
I'm not addressing any rude comments at all.
Good, thank you.
So feel free to. I would just ignore them, and not pay them any mind, because that's not the environment I want to create. I vehemently disagree with you, but I'm here for a friendly conversation, not to throw stones. Okay. So to me, what's happening right now is it is wordplay. I'm not saying this isn't a discussion that should be had. Of course, it should. But it seems like what you're doing now is what some precepts do, where, hey, I can't actually verify this, so I'm going to challenge your ability. You're trying to discredit reality in a way, since you have a way to back up.
I'm discrediting empiricism. I'm discrediting people that claim that you must have demonstrable facts. I'm discrediting empiricism itself. So I'm not discrediting you. Thank you, Kaitlyn. I am only discrediting the empiricist views that are coming into these arguments of, well, no, we can't believe it because we need to demonstrate it. And then I bring up solipsism, and then you're like, oh, well, we don't need to demonstrate that. We just assume that to better explain our reality. And then we go back to something else that you disagree with, and you say, well, we need to demonstrate that. But the standards of evidence keep changing, and these are just philosophical argumentations. And all that I'm saying is that it's most reasonable to believe that other minds exist, just like it's most reasonable to believe that everything that we've observed with induction everything that's come into existence has had a cause. It's reasonable to believe that because that's what happens in our universe, and that's what we have observed for thousands of years. To say, well, we haven't seen every single thing, so we could never make that. Socrates was, or all men are mortal. Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. You don't hear any atheist going, oh, well, we haven't observed every single man, so we don't know.
Okay. I have a couple questions, but let's get the super chat. Holy Spackle, thank you. Do you think we are in Allah's dream?
I don't know. I have no clue. I can't tell you anything about what Allah is thinking about, or what he likes to do on the weekends, or what his favorite golf course is. I have no clue.
Okay, so why does hard solipsism need to be solved? Because what I'm noticing is where you keep going back to solipsism as if us not being able to solve it means it's okay to believe in God. So why do we need to solve hard solipsism?
No, I've never made that connection. I've never said that because hard solipsism can't be solved that we can believe in God now. I'm saying that we should not be empiricists because empiricism has been refuted. I'm literally refuting empiricism right now. I'm not saying because of this God exists. I'm not going that far. We're going one baby step at a time. Okay? There are atheists that do not believe in God, that literally agree with everything that I'm saying right now. One of the leading atheist philosophers that I had on my show, Graham Oppie, he believes in a causal principle and a necessary being for the universe. He believes that empiricism is not the way to go about the world, that if we can get empirical data, fine, cool. But what precedes that empirical data is philosophical argumentation that gets verified by empirical data.
See, but even if I don't care which, like right now, every atheist could accept your philosophical claim. That doesn't really hold any more weight.
Sure, yeah. It's not an appeal to popularity. It's not an ad populum fallacy. I'm simply saying that that getting away from empiricism and showing that it's reasonable to believe claims without empirical data does not mean that you have to believe in God. That's all I'm saying.
And okay, so what about? So I don't really know how to dive too much into this because I can't really explain empiricism, but what specifically in that are you challenging?
Would you agree with this statement? For us to hold reasonable beliefs with claims in our reality, we need empirical evidence to observe and demonstrate those claims.
Say it one more time, please.
Okay. For us to have reasonable beliefs in a said claim, we need empirical data to demonstrate that those things are true.
If I'm understanding it correctly, yes, that sounds reasonable.
Okay. Do you have any demonstrable evidence for that statement right there?
For the statement itself, what do you
Yes. Do you think that's reasonable, believe in the statement?
Yeah.
The statement says that anything that's reasonable for you to believe in, you have to have empirical evidence for. Where's the empirical evidence for that statement right there?
That's pre-sup stuff.
No, that's not. I mean, you can call it. You can try and discredit it by calling it pre-sup, but you don't have an answer for it.
Okay, oh man, philosophy drives me nuts.
It's my favorite thing.
Thinking rational beings, and we can come to reasonable conclusions. But
correct.
It sounds like you're challenging the reality or discrediting the tools we use to determine reality in a way to bring more cadence to the belief in God.
No, I'm not discrediting the tools. I still love the scientific method. But I believe when there's claims that the scientific method cannot even touch, that we need to use philosophical argumentation. And also, for the claims that can be touched by the scientific method, there needs to be a realization that those observations started with philosophical argumentation. You can't have science without philosophy. Philosophy is fundamental to investigating any claim that you could ever bring me.
So, without challenging, how could you right now demonstrate for me that a God is a plausible answer without saying, solve hard solipsism? How can you get me from where I'm at to where you're at? Because I need something more tangible and believable. And right now, while I do still have a great deal to learn, a lot of what I've heard is like what ifs or if this, then that. I'm not hearing anything compelling yet. So get me to where you're at.
So, like I said at the very beginning, first we would need to fix the epistemology. Now, that is not an insult towards you. That is saying that your epistemological standards of evidence for investigating said claims needs to be fixed. And once that's fixed, then you will see that it's reasonable to believe in these things. And these arguments seem the most reasonable, plausible answer. You specifically use the word plausible, and I love that. That is the most plausible thing, is that if we've observed everything that we've ever observed to begin to exist has had a cause. So it's most reasonable to believe that what comes into existence has a cause. And if the universe can't have an infinite regression, it had to come into existence. It falls into that box of things that are reasonable to believe that it had a cause. Not saying that we have to demonstrate it, but it's something that came into existence. And if everything else in our little box over here, it's reasonable to believe that it had a cause when it began to exist. The universe is just something else that began to exist, which means that that too would be reasonable to believe that it exists. It's once the epistemology is fixed, then we can keep and we can roll through these arguments. And we're like, okay, cool. I got that. I know you're not saying that you have to demonstrate this or you're proving God or anything. I don't believe that I can prove God to you. I don't think that's possible at all.
Okay. So, why does God get an exception then? Like, for instance, if I need to see we have gravity, I can do this, I can show that, but it seems like we're kind of putting God in this special exemption box. Like, since we can't demonstrate it, we're going to use some philosophical arguments to claim he exists.
Are you trying to make me bring up solipsism again?
No, dude. I'm trying to understand, man, because that's like, to me, like, what
you're saying that I'm special pleading for God.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm saying that you're special pleading with other minds. That you'll accept that without demonstration, but everything else you need a demonstration for. That by definition is special pleading.
But for example, I could put you in an MRI or an fMRI and show you have a brain and emotions. Like, we have examples of other people. So it's reasonable to believe that, but we have no example of any God. So
could I be dreaming of that MRI machine?
I mean, of course you could be dreaming it, but
if I was dreaming, is that MRI machine real?
But obviously, if you're dreaming, it's not real. But again, you're
awake. But how do we know we're awake?
Okay, dude, that's the priest. Man, come on.
I would say that Darth Dawkins and what's his name? Saiten Bruggencate, they do a horrible job at Presup. I'm not using Presup. I'm using epistemology. I'm using something that Anthony Bagdabasco would use. He just doesn't use it against atheists. Or, I mean, I don't know if he does or not. I haven't seen him use it against atheists. But it's the Socratic method. It's getting you to question your own beliefs.
I understand getting me to question my own beliefs, but at times they seem like diversionary tactics, like the inability to directly answer a question, so you challenge the other person's beliefs, as opposed to
yes, because the epistemology is flawed. I'm not trying. I love you, Ethan. I don't want to be insulting at all. I hope you don't take anything I say tonight as an insult.
I'm not being insulted at all.
At one point in time, I was not equipped for the words that are coming out of my mouth right now. And I'm not saying that I'm a genius at all. There's so many people that are way smarter than me. But these books that I have read got me to where I am today, got me to understand the things that I didn't understand before. And when I didn't understand those, I was saying the exact same things that you're saying.
So it sounds like your epistemology has been corrupted. It does.
I have a consistent epistemology.
It seems like your standards for God are lower. To me, extraordinary claim requires extraordinary evidence. But there doesn't seem to be any actual evidence for God.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps coming back to we'll solve hard solipsism. Okay, well, I can't. But
so any demonstration that you say that you could make couldn't be substantiated. So every demonstration in your reality is therefore just pointless.
Okay, so in a moment, I want to take some audience questions. So if
Sure.
you have any, go ahead, tag YFNA, and we'll get to them. Keep them respectful, obviously. If you're being an asshole, I'm not going to put your comment on screen. Here's a question. Do Muslims believe in an afterlife?
Yes, we believe in an afterlife. There are 7 levels of heaven. We don't know what happens in Jannah. We don't know what heaven is like. We don't know if we get to see family. We really don't know anything about it, except we do know that it is greater than anything conceivable in our life. Outside of God itself, outside of God Himself, it's the best conceivable, greatest conceivable thing that we can't even conceive of. And yes, people can get to heaven even if they're not necessarily Muslims, because the reason why I say that, and I want to make this clear, because I made a mistake last time I was on another show talking about this, when I was on the Tart Show. I want to make this clear. I cannot tell you that you are going to hell like the Christians can. Okay. The Christians can say, this is an unforgivable sin. Anybody that does this goes to hell forever. We believe in a finite hell where sometimes, a lot of the time, if you do finite crimes, then you will spend a finite amount of time in hell. If you do not repent, if you do not ask for forgiveness and ask Allah to show mercy, then you will go to hell for a finite amount of time. And once your time has been taken care of, then you go to heaven. So there's still a lot of questions that goes along with that. But would you agree that that is much better than if you don't take Jesus as your Lord and Savior, you go to hell for all of eternity?
Well, I think any form of hell is torture and wrong, and I could never support.
Absolutely. Do you think that it's more reasonable than an eternal hell just for not taking something as your Lord and Savior?
I mean, I really don't think either are reasonable. I think they're both pretty bad.
So you don't believe in people going to jail for their crimes?
Jail and hell are two very different things. Like
yes, you have a finite crime, and then with a Christian view, you have an infinite punishment. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
With Islam, you have a finite crime and a finite punishment. And then once you've learned your lesson, you go to Jannah, you go to heaven.
We know that like torture doesn't work. For instance, like when we focus in our prison system more on education and rehabilitation, people are less likely to reoffend. When you just throw them in and treat them like nothing, they're more likely to reoffend when they get out.
Yeah, I haven't described what hell is like yet. I think you're using a Christian framework on what hell's like. And honestly, I couldn't even tell you what's different about it, because I haven't studied that in depth.
So how do you, before I get to the audience questions, how, and I know you said you don't fully understand it yet, but how do you come to terms with Allah's view on the LGBTQIA community if you're still a humanist, as you say?
I don't understand why it is a sin. God, Allah, understands why it's a sin. I do not understand why it's a sin. Another big thing is pork. Nowhere in the Quran does it state why we shouldn't eat pork. It's just something that we shouldn't do. There's no reason why we shouldn't do it. And people try and come up with reasons why. But honestly, from the word of God itself, from the Holy Quran, there is no explanation. It's just, don't do this.
So
don't eat pork.
Why would you follow that?
What do you mean? Why? So are you saying, but here's where we start playing into emotions rather than going down the logical route. This is why I said I left Christianity for bad reasons. I'm glad that I left it, but I left it for emotional reasons. Morality ties in with your emotions. I'm not going to pick a belief or leave a belief off of emotions anymore. That is irrational. So I can think that these things are horrible all day long. But at the end of the day, if I rationally came to this belief, I have to figure out how to live my life and figure out how I can best understand, or even if I should understand, why things are right and why things are wrong. When it comes to like a moral debate, if me and you were to debate morality, I'd have a pretty short argument. I'd say, hey, we both have our subjective opinions. We both, come together as a society and try and say what we think is right and wrong. I have an opinion that my God has an objective moral standard. I can't prove that to you. The only way that you're going to find that out is if you die, and if God is real, then you see him on Judgment Day, and bada bing, bada boom, there you go, there's the objective morality. Until then, I can't prove it to you, which would mean that it's pointless trying to debate you on it.
So, let's say right now, okay, let's, you and I have a mutual friend who is trans. Let's say Allah is going to torture them or put them in hell because they are gay or trans. Are you still going to support Allah?
I don't know that. I don't know. I don't know that Allah would do that. I would never have the information on that, on why somebody goes to hell, or what qualifications get somebody to go to hell. Well, yeah, I mean, if we're not talking about Islam and we're talking about some other religion to where we know that they're going to hell just for being gay, yeah, I'd be totally against it.
Well, no, with Islam. You say you don't understand.
But that's not Islam's beliefs.
So then, but okay, if homosexuality is a sin.
No, sodomy is a sin.
Okay. So what happens to somebody who sins?
What happens to somebody who sins?
Yeah, like for instance,
sodomy. That would be anybody that's ever existed, other than Jesus and other than Muhammad. Anybody that sins is judged at Judgment Day. Okay. And your good deeds and your bad deeds will be weighed, and Allah will tip the scales and figure out what has happened in your life. If somebody has done something shitty to you, that's actually going to be a reward, and you're going to get a bump on the good side, on the going to heaven side. If you've screwed somebody over in their life, that's going to bring it down. So this is based on your deeds.
Okay, but I want to just ask this as directly as possible. Right now, Let's say you die. And you find out that a member, anybody, no matter their good deeds, if they engage in sodomy, they will go to hell.
I don't know.
I know you don't know. But you've been showing you like speculation and what if. So what if? Would you still support this God if he condemned people who engaged in sodomy?
Would I support this God if he sent people to hell who performed sodomy?
Correct.
Yes.
So do you see why I would have trouble grasping that you're still a humanist and LGBTQI ally?
No, I don't understand why. I don't understand that.
Seriously?
Yes.
Okay, so if God right now said, if God was real, and I find out he's going to torture my LGBTQ friends, I'm not going to stand with him. In fact, I will proudly stand with my friends and go to hell. You wouldn't?
I don't think. I think most people would piss their pants and do exact opposite of what they normally say they would. I've heard so many atheists say that, well, I'm going to spit in God's face and laugh my ass to hell. No, you're not. Don't lie.
Sorry, why I wouldn't laugh to hell? I am not cowering and begging to somebody who would hurt my friends, particularly members of the LGBTQI community. I would immediately be like, dude, I want nothing to do with you.
So let's play a speculation. You wouldn't do that, but let's just say that somebody, and I'm not comparing this to God. I'm bringing up a situation to where you had a choice. You know what? I don't even want to go there. because I know how it's going to be taken by the chat. I know how it's going to be. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut about what I was just about to say because I'm going to be misrepresented. I can already see how the chat's been acting. I am still much a humanist. A humanist is somebody that wants people to flourish, that wants people to be happy, that wants people to live their lives how they want to live it. Would you agree with that?
So, sorry, to be clear, the chat, most of them have remained friendly the entire time. They're disagreeing with you, but I've seen very few insults, and those insults were immediately hidden. Like, I don't see anybody directly saying, like, insulting you. So can we agree with that?
No.
Can you give me an example of someone directly insulting?
Yeah, I'm scrolling through right now. He's dodging. Okay, no, I'm not dodging. I'm answering your questions directly. Let's see.
That's not an insult, but I would agree that it does seem like you were...
Me dodging is necessarily me being dishonest. I take being called dishonest as an insult.
Okay, I didn't say dishonest.
Can I honestly dodge your questions?
Well,
no, I'd have to do it on purpose, which would be dishonest. So inherently, I'm being called dishonest by anybody who says that I'm dodging when I'm really trying to answer all of your questions for you.
Well, you seemed, and I want to get to the audience questions in a moment.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to shut the chat off and let anybody say what they want to say about me because I've been through 12 months of Afghanistan. So keyboard warriors on the internet aren't going to faze me. So I'll just leave it at that.
I wouldn't take it to heart. I mean, saying you're dodging isn't, it seems like you didn't want to directly answer the question out of fear of how people would react. Is that accurate?
Exactly? Yes, because we were no longer talking about Islam. And once I answered the question, then people would equate it with Islam. It's what I've been experiencing ever since I came out. That exact thing has happened hundreds of times since I became a Muslim with the atheist community. Not atheist community generalized, but more times than not, those questions come up. I answer the hypothetical and clarify that we're no longer talking about my belief. And then once I answer the question and be like, yeah, that's totally messed up. And they're like, so why are you a Muslim then?
All I'm trying to do is just get a straightforward answer from you on this LGBTQ issue. We'll both agree. We don't know that this is accurate of Islam. Okay. We are purely engaging in a hypothetical.
Yes. Let me just put it to you this way, and then I'd like to move on.
Okay.
I will support anybody's right to be able to make the choices with who they want to be with, to get married, to have a family, to be happy, and to live their lives. Am I going to pick up a sign and walk in a pride parade? No, I will not do that. But I will make sure that people are not oppressing those who want to live their life a specific way. I will fight against those legislating laws.
So you would no longer stand by your friends in a pride parade?
I have been an atheist and a humanist for years.
Okay.
I haven't walked in a single pride parade. Okay. But I wasn't not called a humanist back then. All I'm saying now is that if I had the opportunity, that I probably wouldn't, because then I would be rooting you guys on for what I believe is a sin. Okay. Do I think it's wrong?
That's more direct.
I don't.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't. I thinking that something is wrong and that something is a sin are two different things for me.
So
it's a sin because the big guy upstairs says so. Is it wrong? According to my personal opinion, I don't think that it's wrong. But if I am in a belief system to where I have limited knowledge and this deity says that he has the knowledge, well, then I am misunderstanding something somewhere. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with not understanding. And I'm actually rewarded for it in Islam for ignorance on certain things. As long as I'm a genuine person and I treat people right and try and help people be happy, I'm not going to say, you over there, Borg skeptic. Let's just bring Katie. Let's mention Katie.
They're not here. I don't want to.
No. I'm saying this is what I would say to Katie. I love you, Katie. I want you to be happy. If you want to be trans, please be trans. Be happy. I don't want to take that away from you. I'm not going to tell you one single time that you're sinning and that you need to turn from it and you need to repent. You don't need to do, I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to believe that my God says that it's a sin, and I'm going to have the personal opinion that I don't understand why, because I don't see anything wrong with it. So live your life and do your thing and be happy. And if anybody tries to come and tear your house down and tell you that you can't do this, I will fight against them. I will come in and be the third party that says, no, you can't stop them from being happy. You can't stop them from doing what they want to do. There are no victims according to their lifestyle. There are no victims of a LGBTQ relationship. As long as they're two consenting adults that want to be in the relationship together, leave them alone.
So, okay, to put a final cap on this, and then we're going to go to questions. Okay. You would still support Allah, knowing that homosexuality is a sin and those people could be harmed in the afterlife. I'm not trying to like screw with you here. I'm trying to understand and get just a direct question. If you don't want to answer that, we can move on.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable answering that.
Okay. All right, Dean Meadows. Is it possible that people don't learn their lesson in hell and stay there for eternity on Islam?
There are parts in the Quran to where it does say that some people, what's called kafirs, kafirs might spend eternity in hell. To which, if there's some clarification to clear this up, a kafir is an unbeliever. Ethan, I don't believe that you're an unbeliever. Okay. You don't believe that you are a kafir. A kafir is somebody that has been given the word of God, that has knowingly been convinced that it is true, and then even though that they think that it's true, they reject it and they suppress it. I don't know your intentionality. I don't know your knowledge. I could never call you a kafir. Only Allah knows who the kafirs are, so I could never tell you that you would be spending an eternity in hell, nor anybody else that exists.
Okay. I gotta thanks for the super chat, P. Your take on general Islamic iconography, I don't know how to say that word, anachronism of the hadiths and the exceptionalism of the Iranian Shias in their classical Muslim art. Thanks. I don't know what any of that means.
Love you, P.
Okay. Okay, so YFNA. Is Justin really saying that he has no interest in convincing people to not sin and avoid hell? Why does he only care about a temporal well-being at the cost of eternal torture? That's a great question. That's a really
it's a fantastic question, because this is where I'm going to show the double-sided edge, the double-sided sword in this. Because if theists are proselytizing and telling people that they need to repent, the atheists are like, you need to stop doing that. Let us live our lives. And then when I say that I'm not going to do that, they say, is he really serious that he's not going to say anything about this? Like, it's a lose-lose situation. Like, I can't make any atheist happy. Like, it's either proselytizing and we're wrong, or not proselytizing and we just don't care.
Okay.
It's bullshit.
Shane, what do you think the punishment for apostasy should be?
Should be? I don't know. I'm not God.
Kyle Brewer. Justin, are you happy?
I'm extremely happy. I'm extremely hungry, but I'm happy.
me too. We're almost done. Any last minute questions, put them in. Obviously, I didn't get to get all of them. I did miss something on what you did say, what I will have to disagree with. It sounds like you said people choose to be trans. I would not agree.
No. Okay. If I said that, I take that back. Okay. People do not choose to be trans. I didn't choose to be attracted to specific types of women. That is not a choice. That is something that you're born with. Okay. If I said that, I was speaking too quickly, and I want to correct myself right now. And thank you, Ethan, for bringing it up. I do not think that homosexuality or any part of the LGBTQ community is a choice. Do I think that acting upon your preferences and desires are a choice? Absolutely. But do I think that I'm going to wake up one day and be like, I feel like being a homosexual today? No, that does not happen.
Okay. Question from, I can't say your name. I apologize. YFNA, elaboration. If I believe a bus is going to hit someone, I'm going to try and save them if they believe the bus isn't real. Holy Spack, can you ask what omnipowers he attributes to Allah? And can you ask if Allah is benevolent and if Muhammad was a perfect man?
So yes, Muhammad was a perfect man. To answer that one, what omnipowers he attributes to Allah, I believe that Allah is omniscient in the sense that he knows all true propositions. So God is not all powerful in the sense that he could choose to not exist, because that doesn't make any sense. It's logically contradictory. Logic is applied to Allah. So Allah cannot do anything that's logically impossible, like create a burrito so spicy that it's too spicy for him to eat it, or create a boulder that's too heavy for him to lift. Those things are not possible. God cannot sin. God cannot lie. He cannot act outside of his own nature. If his own nature is logically coherent, then he cannot do anything thus that is illogical.
Dragnot, did he accept or reject the arguments, the Kalam arguments from Christians while he was an atheist?
I rejected it while I was an atheist from the Christians because my epistemology was flawed.
Sorry. And then we've got Autumn, if you could just post your question again real quick, just because I'm trying to finish up and I can't scroll all the way back up right now. I think... real quick, let me actually thank my patrons, Cindy Plaza, Kenneth, Leonard, Kathy Letto, JumpandShoot, Oz, Secular Rarity, Chianti and Fava Beans, Philip Leitch, Kaitlyn Beyond, Toast, Richard Gilliver, Sunset Sarge. I appreciate your patronage. If you like what I do, consider becoming a patron for as low as $1 a month. And one thing I always actively strive for, even when dealing with controversial topics like these, is trying to be friendly. And I know at times not everyone's a fan of that, but that's what I like doing. Like, I want to be I try to think of the best way to describe it. I want to be, I'm here to learn and listen and try and build bridges with people. I'm not really the I want to tear people down type. In case it wasn't apparent, I do vehemently disagree with Justin. I think you're aware of that. So yeah. Autumn, if you could put your question up real quick. Justin, where can they check you out at?
So I have a YouTube channel. It's still called the EA Show. It's called Exploring Arguments. I'm doing some refining to the show. The show has always been about bringing people on that have different beliefs than me and discussing what they believe and why they believe it, kind of like what we have done tonight. And about bridging the gap, about bringing us together as humanity instead of building walls and dividing us. And that's what I want to do, is continue having these good conversations and still be open-minded to having my mind changed. Now, I said that I was open-minded before and my mind was changed. So while we're live, if I do change my mind in my position again, don't be surprised. Okay? We don't need to make this another Facebook fiasco for a week. I don't like it. I don't think I'm that important. I don't want to hurt anybody with me changing my beliefs, but my beliefs are based on what I'm convinced of. So if I do change my position again, please just don't take it as an insult. Like, I'm truly not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. I'm just not believing in what I currently believe, what I believed in before.
Okay. All right, last couple questions. Dragnot, would the guys who helped convert him come up and chat with others? Because that's what I was actually going to ask you next. Would you and a couple of your Muslim brothers be open to coming on a roundtable with me and a couple of the friendly people from the community.
I know they would.
Yes, let's set it up.
I know they would. Yeah, let's get it. But just so you know, like when I was talking about the Kalam, we had a discussion to where I brought a astrophysicist and a full-time philosopher, both atheist, to talk to my Muslim brothers. And at the beginning, they denied the Kalam cosmological argument. 40 minutes into it, they accepted the first premise that they were vehemently denying at the beginning. So if you want to have that conversation, we'd be more than happy to come on. If somebody wants to come on, you've already been in there, Ethan, but the Facebook groups, you could say it's a pretty friendly area that they don't dogpile anybody. You were in there for a little bit. We basically laid out the arguments and we just have a conversation like we are right now. Anybody is welcome to come in and have a conversation with us. And if you're truly interested in what convinced me and to talk to the guys that convinced me of these arguments, we'd be more than happy to have you come in as long as you are respectful. Now, if you got this grudge to hold because your atheist YouTuber, the empathetic atheist, is no longer an atheist anymore, and you want to come in there and cause problems, then we're just going to kick you. But if you're truly interested in finding out what these arguments are, please come on in. We're more than welcome. We're happy people. We love everybody. Come on in. We'll talk to you. We'll get down to the bottom of all this stuff.
Okay, well, on one end, I can vouch that when I was on the phone with them both times, yes, it was friendly. However, there was an individual or two in that chat that I was not happy with based on their views. However, the ones I spoke with on the phone were pleasant.
Yeah, so I know the one that you're talking about. And let me put this out there. Me and my Muslim brothers have told that person multiple times, hey, chill out, cool down. But at the end of the day, I am not his keeper. I'm not his daddy. He doesn't really join the calls very often. And if I'm in that call, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm not going to stand for it. I'm going to say something if he becomes disrespectful. But like I said, the people that mostly convinced me are in there just about every single day. And the person that we're talking about has recently been taking some time off because he kind of gets away from social media during Ramadan.
Okay. All right, let's power through these last questions in like 20-second or less answers. How do you feel this reasoning differs from the reasoning you used in becoming a white nationalist, atheist, Christian, and so on?
So atheist outside of it, I was indoctrinated to be a white supremacist. I was indoctrinated to be a Catholic or a Christian, same thing. I was indoctrinated to be those. Now, atheist, I left Christianity to become an atheist for emotional reasons. My journey to Islam had nothing to do with emotions. So that's how I can differentiate all of those things, is that I came to Islam strictly on a reasonable and rational basis using philosophical argumentation.
Awesome. Why are Muslims so happy during Ramadan?
Because this is the month that the Prophet Muhammad was, peace be upon him, was revealed the Quran. So it's a time for us to kind of come together. So you know how like on Atheist Day, you go on Facebook and all the atheists are like, Happy Atheist Day. We love you guys. Yeah. It's kind of the same thing, but for a month. We get together on Friday nights after we break our fast. We go to the mosque. It's a support system. It's a community of like-minded people. I have to go pray. Community of like-minded people that come together and celebrate something that they find near and dear to them. So I just converted a couple weeks ago. I've been fasting since the 13th. I'm super happy because I've lost around 12 pounds since I started, and it's leading me to eat healthier foods. It's leading me and my wife to buy meat that isn't backed up by people that are just being cruel to animals. We buy halal meat to where animals are actually treated properly before they're slaughtered, and slaughtered in the most humane way to make the meat. So I know that was probably longer than 20 seconds, but
let me get these last two and then we'll let you go. Brainbug, does he intend on legally changing his name?
No.
Okay, and then crap, where did that last super chat go? or Johnny Moe. It's like normal chat, but super, saying thanks, Johnny. P, the prophet is known for the final C of the prophets. Does this relate in any way to only doctrinal or personal infallibility, or both? Go break your fast. Patience is self, half of Iman.
Iman. Yep.
Everyone, thanks for your super chats. Thanks for tuning in. To those that remained friendly the whole time, thank you so much. Justin, thanks for taking the time to doing this. For those who don't know, in 15 minutes, I'll have Dave Warnock and my friend Holly will be doing a show on relationships and loss. For those who don't know, Holly lost her husband to ALS. So we're going to be talking about how to deal with that. It'll be on the pickup line. Hannah's a little sick, so I'll be doing the show solo. Every Tuesday is The Perspective, where we tackle supernatural, paranormal claims, belief in aliens, conspiracy theories, and such. And then Sundays with Jenna Belk on mental health. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And Justin, stay on board for just 1 second.
Okay.